You ever been scrolling late at night and you stumble on one of those true scary stories that just gets under your skin and it stays there? Well, these aren't just random spooky tales. They're basically modern folklore, and they're built with a specific set of psychological tools designed to tap into our deepest, oldest fears. So, let's pull back the curtain and really break down the anatomy of a modern campfire story.
This quote right here, this is the exact feeling we're talking about. See, it's not about jump scares. It's about that cold, creeping dread. It's the violation of your personal space. And that terrifying moment when you realize you are not alone, and maybe you never were. This is the absolute core of what makes these stories work so well.
You know, for thousands of years, we've gathered around fires to share stories. Cautionary tales, myths, stories about monsters lurking out there in the dark. While today, that campfire is digital. Platforms like YouTube have become the new place where we all gather, where storytellers share these tales and they're tapping into the same ancient fears, just with a modern viral twist.
To figure out how this all works, we're going to act like forensic story analysts. We're going to dissect 3 really popular true hunting horror stories from the web. We're talking tales of strange watchers, inhuman creatures, and these phantom screams. By breaking them down, we can find that shared DNA of fear that's been woven into them to just maximize the terror.
All right, so our analysis starts with the foundation of any good scare, the setting. Every great horror story needs the right stage, right? And for these tales, that stage is almost always the same. It's a place far from safety, a place where the normal rules of civilization just don't apply. It's all about creating this feeling of primal isolation.
And just look at how consistent this is across our 3 stories. You've got a solo hunter alone in the woods of Pennsylvania, a remote family lease out in Texas, an isolated campsite way deep in the mountains. The details change, but the theme is identical. They are all far away from help, surrounded by this huge, indifferent wilderness. It just strips away every single layer of modern safety.
And this quote just perfectly captures the psychological effect. This is from that first story, and it shows how isolation immediately puts the character and us, the listener, on high alert. Suddenly, the silence isn't peaceful. It's predatory. Every little snap of a twig could be a threat. Your mind starts filling in the blanks, and let's be honest, it rarely fills them with anything good.
Okay, so you've set the stage with total isolation. Now you need a threat to step onto it. But what's clever is these stories don't just throw a simple monster at you. No, they present antagonists that are mysterious, varied, and just deeply unsettling because of what they represent.
And this is where you see that fear is not one size fits all. First, we have the Watcher. He's human, but his bizarre actions create this purely psychological threat. Then the second story gives us the Creature, a classic physical menace with claws and screams. And the third one? The antagonist is the scream. It's this auditory lure that literally weaponizes your own compassion against you. And this gets us to a really key psychological principle, the fear of ambiguity. What we don't know is often so much scarier than what we do. An unknown creature, a person with no clear motive, a scream with an uncertain source, these things force our own imagination to become the monster. Our brains are hardwired to solve puzzles, and when a piece is missing, we tend to fill that void with our absolute worst fears.
Okay, so you're isolated. There's an unknowable threat out there. What's the next step? How do you really escalate the terror? Well, you attack the very concept of safety itself. These stories are absolute masters at systematically dismantling any sense of security the main character has.
I mean, just look at the first story. This isn't one random attack. It's a methodical campaign of terror. It starts small, a new tree stand. Then it gets personal, strange markers, dead animals hung up as warnings. Then it breaches his personal space, his backpack gets searched. And the final violation? Opening a locked truck door. Each step crosses a brand new boundary, and it's basically saying, nowhere you go is safe. I can get to you, anywhere. And you see this pattern repeat across all these tales. The safe cabin in the second story? It gets slammed against, physically attacked. The safe campsite in the third story? It's penetrated by that horrifying scream. The message is crystal clear. The walls can't protect you, the fire won't save you. There is no safe place. So, when you start weaving all these threads together, the isolation, the unknowable antagonist, the violation of safety, what do you actually get? It might be packaged for YouTube, but the architecture underneath it all, it's ancient. What you've really built is a modern myth that taps directly into our oldest, most hardwired fears.
So let's just recap the core building blocks we've pulled out here. You've got primal isolation to set the stage, the unknowable antagonist to provide the threat, the violation of safe spaces to create that escalating tension, and the ambiguous lure, like that scream, which preys on our own human instincts. These are the pillars of modern digital folklore.
Now here's where it gets really fascinating. Look what happens when you put these modern tropes right next to classic legends. The strange man watching from the trees? He's a direct descendant of the madman of the woods archetype, a classic cautionary tale. The inhuman creature down in Texas? It echoes ancient legends of the Wendigo or the Skinwalker, monsters born from the wilderness itself. And that screaming lure? That's the siren song, just updated for the mountains. A beautiful, tempting sound that leads you to your doom.
So ultimately, these stories that get shared and spread online, they're doing the exact same job as the old myths. They aren't just for a quick scare. They are our new cautionary tales. They're a way for us to explore our anxieties about the wilderness, about the unknown, and about just how fragile our own safety really is.
Which leaves us with one final thought. These stories, they're almost always presented as true, but their power doesn't really come from being factually accurate. Their power comes from how effectively they use these ancient storytelling tools to connect with our primal fears. So the question is, when a story taps into our fears this well, when it becomes a modern myth, does its literal truth even matter anymore?